Welcome back, everyone.
Wantoe. So
Here is the
Dana wants to
question.
sit on this side, so you're going to sit on that side, okay? Okay. So come.
So welcome back, everyone. And here's a question for everyone striving to drive social impact. Grassroots or institutional change? Our next global engagement session dives into the debate. Should we focus on grassroots effort or collaborate with organizations and governments? Please join me in welcoming Scarlett McCabe to introduce the session and our panelists.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We have a very intimate audience here today. Can everyone move to the front, the people that are sitting at the back, so that we can make it more closer? Come, yalla, come to the front. And when people come in, they can sit at the back. So we can make it more, feel like we're in a smaller room, feel like there's more people here. I'm sure everyone's just getting their coffee and tea. Thank you so much. So welcome, everyone, to the debate of the day. I know that we've all had Bill Gates earlier, who was amazing. But today is really where you're going to see a real conversation about how we achieve social change, how we change the world, how we can leave today feeling like we have the knowledge and the skills and the strategy to do what needs to be done. And we've got some amazing speakers here who are going to have a fascinating discussion. But before we get started, can I ask if anyone in this room has ever been in a debate before? Yeah, a few people. Cool, we've got some debaters. Excellent. So for those that don't know, I'm just going to give you a little background to DebateMate and to debating, and then I'm going to welcome the speakers up. So DebateMate is a social business that was founded 15 years ago. We started off teaching debating after-school debate clubs in schools. Then we developed a corporate training arm, teaching professionals in businesses how to debate. And you might ask, why are we teaching people to debate? Isn't debating just arguing? Isn't it conflict? But debating is the best way to teach people the skills that they will need to succeed in the future of work. Because to be a good debater, you don't just have to speak well. Public speaking is a given, right? But to be a good debater, you have to be able to listen. You have to be able to respond on the spot. You have to be able to critically assess information and question. You have to be able to think on your feet. You have to be able to argue for things that maybe you don't believe in. And the speakers on stage today are going to be talking about and advocating for opinions that maybe are not their own. So it helps develop empathy and understanding. And to be a good debater, you have to be able to be disagreed with without collapsing, without falling to the ground. So you have to be resilient. These are all skills that we know are not only important every day, but are fundamental to the future of work. Every organization in the world that is tasked with talking about skills for the future highlights human skills as being the ones which are the most important in an AI-dominated workplace. Not technical, not coding, human skills. So that is what debating teaches. We've been teaching it for 15 years. We work with incredible partners like BP, like PwC, even the Premier League. We taught Premier League footballers how to communicate better through debating off the pitch, so they were better footballers on the pitch. And we're really excited to be with you here today because we think that debates are a much more interesting way of having discussions than normal panels. Because in a debate, you get to hear two sides of an argument. You get to hear two sides of a discussion, and you as the audience are our judges today. So you're going to be the ones that decide who wins and who loses. Are we all feeling good about that today? Yes? We had a bit of yes in the front. Are we all feeling good about that today? Yes, please. We need a bit of energy. We need to get the energy up in here. Now, what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to call the debaters up on stage, and then I'm going to talk you through the format of debate. All I need from you, I just need you all to promise me one thing, okay? I need you to listen with both your ears. My grandmother, Irish woman, she always had lots of sayings, and she said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You need to use them in that proportion. And I believe that there's a saying in every language in the world similar to that, about the importance of listening. And I want you all sitting here today to be listening to what the speakers are saying. Not necessarily what you believe, but what the speakers are saying. Because then not only are you going to be the judge, but we're also going to come to you and ask you your opinions. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like us to welcome the speakers up on stage. Let's give them a massive round of applause. Come and take your seats, please. So come and sit here, Dana. And Wantoe, come and sit over here. Okay, so now we get down to business. So the debate today is about whether grassroots or institutional change is the best way to achieve social change. And each speaker is going to be speaking for 5 minutes initially. So they'll each have a chance to speak. We'll start with the proposition side, arguing for institutional change. And then we'll go to the opposition side, arguing for grassroots change. Now, after 5 minutes on each side, so after each side has spoken, we're going to come to you, the audience, and you get to ask questions to the speakers, right? Now, here's the thing. In DebateMate, we like to make everything fun, and we like to make it all a bit different. So there will be a prize for the best question from the floor. It's not a medal. It's not a trophy. Put your hands up if you've heard of Nando's. Anyone here heard of Nando's? Okay, if anyone's from the UK or the US, you'll know that a Nando's chicken check is the ultimate currency when it comes to young people. And we know that getting a Nando's chicken check, £20 because of inflation, it used to be £10, a £20 Nando's chicken check is the key to people's hearts. So the winner of the floor debate today, judged by my colleague Elisa, sitting over here. She moderated the debate yesterday in Arabic. Some of you may have seen. She is very talented. She can moderate debates in Arabic and English and decide Nando's chicken check winners. She will be deciding who gets to win the esteemed prize, because I believe there is a Nando's in Saudi Arabia. So, good? Is it good? Do you like it medium, mild, spicy? Medium. That's good. Yeah, spicy, personally. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to welcome our debaters on stage. So speaking in favor of the motion for institutional change, I'd like to welcome Dana Al-Anzy. Dana is a graduate of both Georgetown and LSE. LSE is obviously very special, it's where I went. She is a 2-times recipient of the Qatar National Education Excellence Awards. She's passionate about civil society, activism, and education activism. She serves as Qatar's youth ambassador to the UN Youth Assembly. She's the founder of the Y17 Society, which empowers Qatari youth to achieve the SDGs. And I asked each speaker who their favorite speaker was. And she said her favorite speaker is the one and only Oprah Winfrey. So can we give her a massive round of applause, please? Stand up.
Is this working? Perfect.
Perfect.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, esteemed opponent, Wantoe. My beloved friends, guests, and fellow youth. Today we're talking about a very critical topic, the topic of grassroots, or political reforms and institutional reforms. Each one of you have been involved and engaged at one stage of their life in a cause that they are passionate about. They've advocated for something that they are passionate about. However, what was the turning point for you where you felt stopped or blocked or even sidelined? For the sake of this debate, I will set the ground with a few key terminologies. Grassroots movements are community-led efforts aimed at driving social or political change, typically initiated by individuals or small groups operating outside established systems of power. Institutional reforms refers to the process of transforming the policies, practices, and structures of established organizations, such as governments, corporations, or international bodies, to make them more equitable, effective, and aligned with contemporary needs. For the purpose of this debate, change means meaningful, sustainable improvements to societal systems and outcomes that address critical issues such as inequality, education, and climate change. Malala's advocacy for girls' education is one example of a very powerful grassroots movement. Her story inspired millions, shining light on the barriers to education faced by girls worldwide. Yet, while grassroots movements like Malala's raise awareness and ignite passion, they often lack mechanisms to drive the systemic changes needed to ensure long-term impact. And this is why this House believes that institutional reform is the key to creating lasting and sustainable change.
Point of uh, point of interjection.
Go ahead, Wantoe.
So my inquiry is more centered around Malala Yousafzai with the introduction provided. Are you arguing that all change wasn't comprehensive, comprehensive reform in line with the definition you provided?
Can you repeat the question?
All right, what's your perception of Malala Yousafzai change in terms of the example? Are you arguing that her grassroots initiative may have been more powerful with institutional reform?
That is exactly what I'm saying. And I'm making the point that grassroots efforts are limited. And allow me to offer you three limitations to grassroots efforts. The first one being the lack of resources. Grassroots efforts, though powerful, are often localized, and they lack the funding and the resources to allocate and scale up. Another limitation is the lack of enforcement. They lack power, they lack policy change, and they lack the seat at the table. Which then leads me to my third limitation. When they do get the seat at the table, they are tokenized. How many of you have felt that they were sitting in a room to simply fulfill a quota? Please show me a raise of hands. How many of you have felt that your voice was not powerful enough when you were in that room and that you were overborne with the amount of power that was in that room? You were just sitting there and it was not enough. You felt a little helpless. You felt like you had so much passion and so much drive and so much belief. But the system was essential to the reform. And therefore, in conclusion, grassroots movements are essential. However, the key to true, sustainable, long-lasting transformation is institutional reform. Thank you.
Woo! That was amazing, Dana. Thank you so much. So you might have noticed Wantoe standing up and interrupting Dana there. So this is a thing in debating that we call a point of information. So it's an interruption where one side can interrupt the other. And you can see that she didn't know what he was going to ask. It's a really good way, if you can practice this and get good at it, it's a really good way of practicing thinking on your feet and thinking quickly and then being able to respond using your arguments. So it's a really, really good skill to practice. Okay, now I'd like to welcome our opposition speaker, so arguing against the motion for grassroots change. His name is Teah Wantoe. He is the executive director of the Scholarly Path at the Center for African Policy. He's a passionate advocate for women's and children's rights. He holds not one, but soon to be two master's degrees from Oxford University. He earned global recognition, including the Princess Diana Award. In 2023, he was Liberia's National Flag Day Orator. He's on the board of the AFS Youth Assembly, and his favorite speaker is Obama. So give him a big round of applause, please.
Distinguished audience, distinguished moderator, co-debater, Dana. It is a prestigious privilege to argue for the motion of grassroots change. I'm of the perception that we are here today in this gathering because in some forms, in some manner, we have executed grassroots change as a most comprehensive medium of exhibiting community-based change. There are two things to realize here. One is both institutional change and grassroots change played a critical role in ensuring that we have sustained change in our community, in our society. But my argument today is more centered around the polarizing nature of our institution. One is grassroots change provides a more comprehensive outlook that is faster, that is rapid, that is inclusive, and that creates a better outlook of ensuring faster change in our technological savvy world. Secondly, institutional change deal with a lot of multilateralism and a bit of community-based outreach, but more governmental institutional framework that to some extent is centered around national interests. And so hence, I argue on three forms. One, my argument is centered around policy area, statistical outlook, and a more informed perspective on why grassroots change is the most preferred alternative. So let's look at the UN Millennium Development Goals.
Point of information.
All right.
Hi. So my question to you is, Wanto, you're saying that it is essential to have grassroots change or push to catalyze institutional reform in that sense. How do you suggest? So we've seen in history, throughout history, a lot of Gretas, a lot of Malalas that have been sidelined or gone missing in history and did not get tokenized or pulled into the conversation and included. How do you suggest the reform takes place if it's just passion and it's just catalyzed without the real power of institutions to integrate and enforce laws and enforce policies into the systems for this change to happen? How do you propose the catalyzation is happening?
In fact, to some extent, the argument is that more institutional change create barriers to ensuring that there is more proactive, change in sustained effort of youth engagement. And I argue on several fronts. The first front is the Millennium Development Goals. In 2015, there was a report in the MDG by the UN that revealed extreme poverty rate will cut half globally, but sub-Saharan Africa lag behind 41% in its population due to attributed weak governance, corruption, political instability, and national interest. Hence, the argument on institutional change centered around a barrier of agreement on political interest. Let's take, for instance, the Greta Thunberg question that you asked of the climate change. The climate movement have had sustained advocacy through grassroots movement, but today we have the UN conference in Azerbaijan. Due to institutional and national interests, we realize that there is extreme difficulty in reaching a threshold on national decision-making process because of institutional change. Hence, the argument on grassroots change is centered around how young people can create more lasting change through ensuring that they can have grassroots effort. Some of the mediums of change involving grassroots engagement is through social media. Hence, the argument on technological survey world ensures that with grassroots change, young people are able to reach faster developmental outcome through social media outreach, community-based Twitter, through engagement in their community as well. The second aspect is that in our current polarizing multilateralism, where we have the issue of global conflict around the world and the clash of hegemony, we found that grassroots change presents a faster, more effective pace of change among young people in ensuring that there is effective engagement and ensuring that policy action cannot follow the same meritocracy or bureaucratic engagement where there is a store of interest, but rather there is an engagement where young people are part and parcel of the discussion. So in my argument, as I close out, there are three parts of what I want to be able to challenge you with. One is, both institutional change and grassroots change have shown in different ways in media that young people can be engaged with change. But the argument henceforth is that with the inclusiveness of young people in leading change that are for them, that harness their potential, that connect with their worldview, that fit into the context of their perception of faster and rapid change, I believe that grassroots change is the most inclusive opportunity for young people to ensure that they achieve community-based change. In Saudi Arabia, we're seeing reforms that, to some extent, fall within a context of grassroots change, where today women have the right to drive. In Liberia, it took women who led grassroots action to stop a civil conflict that existed for 15 years. Today, we had a Nobel Peace Prize in Neman Bowie, who closed the door and said, because of grassroots action, no one is leaving until we sign a documentation that completely fall out of the bureaucratic nature of change. So given my time, I want to stand on this, and I look forward to having more conversation and more dialogue around those topics. Thank you.
But you can keep that. Fine. Thank you, Wantoe. That was amazing. Very passionate speeches on each side. And now we come to you. So, has anyone got any questions they would like to ask our speakers? Don't forget, there's a Nando's chicken check at stake here. Okay, yes, excellent. Have we got a mic? I think there's someone down here, please. Yeah, just here. So can you please let us know which side you're addressing your question to? Or it could be to both sides.
Yes, I'd like to raise a point of information to the entire House.
Oh, right, great, yeah.
Regarding the simple question of, as a high school student, how
Yes.
can I, a person who is maybe not planning to go into fields relating to things that are more environmental, like for example, as a student I'm planning to enter into law, how can a person who plans to enter into a field that has very little relation towards environmental goals contribute at the same time?
Okay, amazing. Thank you very much. So the speakers will respond in their summary speeches, not right now. So that's a great question. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Any other questions? Oh, right behind you. Would you mind passing your microphone over there? Thank you.
My question is to Wantoe. Will you agree that the essence of grassroots movement is for institutional reform? Because, for example, Greta Thunberg, she's doing everything she's doing for institutional reform. Because grassroots movement can just go as far, and then the final decision lies within institution. Will you agree with that statement?
Thank you very much. Excellent question. Anyone else got any questions? Anyone over here? My debaters in the front row, put your hands up when you said you've done debating. I'm looking at you guys. Anyone over here? Alyssa, I know you're a judge, but ask a question to get the situation going. You have a comment. All right, we'll go. We'll have your comment first. Yeah, so we can give it to. Oh, sorry. Here's the microphone. Yeah.
If possible, can you please summarize every point of view?
Me.
No.
Oh, the
Every
speakers.
speaker,
Yeah. Okay.
If they can, so it could be clear to ask questions.
Perfect. Okay. So do you want to just do a quick summary of what you were saying? We can come to both of you. Maybe that will help. Yeah.
Hello? I think that might be very helpful. What I'm arguing for is that it's one thing to be an activist and an advocate or lead a grassroots movement, but without institutional reform or change on a legal policy governmental level, no change will happen. So, for example, the question of Greta came up. That is true. She had her Fridays for Future and so many activations and marches. But if it wasn't for the Paris agreements being in place and holding these countries accountable for their actions, you would not really have change happen. So my argument is reform needs to come first systemically from inside, and that should be prioritized, and then the voice of the youth can continue to take place to push for further change.
Cool. Thank you. Wantoe, if you could summarize your
Sure.
case.
My argument is more centered around the topic of the debate. The topic is centered on a key word: what will young people prioritize? And the argument here is that to achieve institutional reform, you have to prioritize grassroots movement. So Greta Thunberg and the rest of the other, climate activists today are, the idea and knowledge of institutional reform form around the prioritization of that grassroots movement. And the second aspect is that I argue that the hostile multilateral space that create national interests and that also challenge a fair and balanced, conversation around change means that grassroots change is more prioritized than institutional reform. And those arguments highlighted 3 area 1, the Millennium Development Goals. I argue that the Millennium Development Goals may not have had impact because of institutional challenges. There was a report from the UN that highlighted that based on corruption, based on fragility of having governmental reforms, and the Millennium Development Goals have 45% less of impact that currently lead to the Sustainable Development Goals. I also provided a report on what grassroots change have impacted in Liberia. In Liberia, after 15 years of conflict, we had an instant Accra Peace Accord that led to lasting peace in Liberia because women of Liberia prioritized grassroots movement by signing the Accra Peace Accord, which led to change. And the final thing also that I argue for, which is also very important, is that given our technological savvy world, where technology have taken over our world, we had an AI conversation on policy. Grassroots movement reaches far more impact through social media, Twitter, through Facebook, and different avenues, which means that to achieve faster pace in changes, we should prioritize grassroots movement over institutional change.
Okay. Does that help summarize it? Okay, we'll come to you in a minute for your question then. Okay, we have a question over here, please.
This is the question for Dana. It's a multi-layered one, so I do apologize. Does the source of drive for change only come from outside of institutions to begin with, through grassroots campaigns, or can that source of change happen to begin with from within institutions? And if so, how can we create the structures or the people from within to start that change from the beginning, from inside institutions rather than from grassroots?
Okay, very good. Thank you. Well done. You can tell she does this for a living. Any other questions anyone might have or comments for both sides? Anyone got any examples of social activists or grassroots movements that they think are inspiring that we can learn from? Apart from Greta and Malala, who are both excellent, inspiring grassroots activists. Anyone got any examples from their local community, local countries? Oh, yes, over here we have a question. Run, Ala, run. He's not running, he's walking, that's fine.
Well, it's not a question. You mentioned like the local community, and I think sometimes like some like names they got forgetting with time. But since you asked, I want to mention some of the names that I know. The lady Munira al-Bassam. When Saudi just started, she was like one of the first lady to start a school, like girls' school. That was before even the formal education for boys and girls started in Saudi Arabia. So I think within that, knowing that, you know, girls' school was not an easy thing to do here. Like when we started, like a lot of families didn't support that. So I just wanted to mention one of the local names and to give her like some of the recognition that she deserves.
She sounds amazing. Thank you so much. Let's give her a round of applause. There was a movement in the UK. Is anyone here from the UK or spent any time in the UK before? Yeah, a few of you. Cool. So there was a movement during COVID in the UK to give young people in schools free school meals, even though schools were closed. It was a big issue. In the UK, we have a big issue with children living in poverty. And so sometimes for certain people living in certain demographics, the only meal they had was at school. But with schools closed, there was a massive issue with children going hungry. And that campaign was actually led by a 16-year-old student who wrote to Marcus Rashford, the football player, yeah, we know got some recognition here, saying you need to go for this. So then Marcus Rashford then campaigned to the UK government. So we went from ultimate grassroots to kind of Premier League football grassroots to government. So it's a really good example, I think, of, to Alyssa's point, the multi-layered approach of this. But as we're in a debate, we have to pick one side. What's most important? Has anyone, oh yes, we have another question here. Sorry, I'm making the poor man run. He's getting his steps in for the day.
Yeah, my question is to you, Dana.
Oh, it's good. Look, he's such a true debater, both sides. I love it.
Is there any do we have any case study of where like an institution just sits and they're like, oh no, we're not doing well? Say for example, BP. They wake up one morning and they're like, oh no, we're mining oil, we need to stop. Is there like, from within institutions, do we have any example? Is it not always like grassroots movement that kind of tell them, you have to stop or we don't buy your product? Do we have any case study? Thank you.
Let her answer in her summary. Thank you very much. Very good point. Anyone else got any questions? Anything that, oh, hello, my friend over here. He's right here. There we go. Thank you.
Can the inside and the outside cooperate to make change? So would there be potential? Would there be any potential for the inside and the outside to cooperate rather than being separated?
Good question. I think that applies to both sides of the debate. Very good. Thank you very much. I think we've got time for one more. If anyone has, oh, we have one over here. Can we, thank you, sorry. Sorry, Ala. Yeah.
So I think why there was not so much questions is that you can't have just one and not have the other. Because change has to start, but personally I believe that change has to start from the community itself, for it to be like a policy or a law that supports it. For example, when countries want to move forward, for example, in any SDG goal, they have to get the community excited, or they have to get the community engaged in order to achieve that goal. So I think grassroots movements and movements from within the community to support that law is actually an essential, and it should have support from the community itself. So I think starting from the community and having them engage and actually relate and have a connection with that goal or with that law will actually help to make it last longer. Because if you have a law and no one is following it and no one is believing in it, I think no one is going to follow that law, and the change is not going to happen. I think grassroots are most important to making the change actually happen. So maybe that's why the questions were not asked, because it's kind of a sensitive topic, and you can't have just one and not have the other. It goes hand in hand. So that was my comment. And thank you all for this amazing debate. You both are amazing, and thank you for your time here.
Thank you. I think you did the equivalent of saying there were no questions because there's no debate. It's so clear it's on one side. And we'll let Dana respond to you, do rebuttal in her debate. But that was excellent. Thank you so much for that question. Okay, was there one more? No? Okay, so now we're going to come over to the summary speakers. So now Dana and Wantoe are going to have an opportunity to answer some of the questions and do their final reflections on the debate. And then we'll come to you guys for the all-important vote. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to invite Dana, please, to speak. So this is shorter now. It's a couple of minutes, not 5 minutes, to tell us why, even with all the questions, you still 100% believe we should prioritize institutional change over grassroots change.
Thank you, Scarlett. Thank you, Wantoe. Thank you, distinguished guests as well for your questions. It was very interactive. My man had 3 questions almost, so thank you especially. I think it is a very difficult debate because it seems like it is contradictory in a sense to have one hand and not the other because both hands clap or whatever the case may be. My argument is what should come first, in the sense that if you have grassroots movements pushing, what is it that you need to receive those movements to make it happen? And the question came as well from this side, I believe, on you wanting to be a lawyer, but also wanting to be engaged in policy change, and you're passionate about green skills or green education or climate action in general. There is research and development efforts that can fix policies from within. There is auditing that can help you fix or reform the systems, but that is exactly why we need reform, to remove those barriers and continue to push from within. It's not that the alarm bells coming from outside are not important. However, you can have alarm bells left and right, but no change. And that is why we need to prioritize pushing systems forward to achieve that change. And I guess that is also back to your question. They do go hand in hand, but in my personal opinion, you really need to push for governments to start adopting policies and taking accountability for the commitments they make, both internally and engaging with grassroots efforts so that they are not silenced, they are not tokenized, and they're also supported. But if you have the attention focused on the institutional aspect of it, it really gives them more power to really push that forward. And again, we talked about the example in Liberia, and you said that they signed an agreement. That is a formal engagement institutionally to make change happen. The passion is always there, and that's not what we're talking about. But what I don't want us doing is being passionate, not organized, not scaling that up, and not ensuring that governments or institutions or international bodies are not holding themselves accountable and prioritizing the change from within and for the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dana. And I'd now like to invite Wantoe to do his answers to the questions and his closing summary. So take it away.
Sure. So, the first clarification is that with the issue in Liberia, it's not institutional change. Because institutional change will require a formal policy-making process that will extend to years and months before you achieve some sort of change. Grassroots change is instantaneous, where they create faster and rapid progress within a space of minimal time that does not follow the institutional bureaucratic process. And hence, one of the most critical part of our argument that grassroots change should be prioritized is the inclusivity of grassroots change, where you have local voice. And that comes to the question that you asked. So Aristotle, one of his most important work is called Polis. And Polis has to do with the localization of grassroots effort. In our current time today, even at the UN, when we were at the General Assembly doing the Summit of the Future, one of the critical arguments we have to the UN Secretary General is to invest in grassroots change. That is, empower local youth voices to be the architect of their own issues. So interestingly, institutional reform will not provide you that opportunity. institutional reform, don't think you are even necessary to be part and parcel of the community-based change. So our argument here is that with institutional, of change and reform, your voice does not even count. So where do you stand in the space of that? Greta Thunberg today have a voice because she prioritized grassroots engagement. The same as the issue of Marco Rashford. Institutional change did not even agree to have a policy that create better opportunity for students and young people to have food in the UK. But because Rashford led an online GoFundMe and it showed that there was a campaign, grassroots campaign, to a lot of students in the UK and even young people were able to have food that may not have received support through institutional change. Hence, we think that there must be a fundamental shift of policy-making process. And that fundamental shift of policy-making process will be revolutionary, where young people can lead grassroots effort and ensure that grassroots effort should be the path to ensuring sustainable change. In terms of the report, I provided the failure. Have you wondered why the Millennium Development Goals failed extensively? It failed because there was massive corruption. So we did not have the outcome that we want because there were a lot of political bureaucratic process that stalled exceptional change that should have been the Millennium Development Goals. And hence, we had a whole change of policy called the Sustainable Development Goals. And interestingly, by 2030, the outcome of the indicator of the Sustainable Development Goal is nowhere near progress. We still have increasing conflict around our world today. Refugee crisis increases. Women still don't have a voice adequately in spaces that we would want. And we think that policy-making process must change to a grassroots orientation. So today, we are not saying that institutional change is not good. We are saying we should be prioritized to have more inclusive voice. And this is what the topic is. This House believes that we will prioritize grassroots movement to ensure that there is exceptional change. While there is institutional change, we think that all of us here should prioritize grassroots movement to ensure that we have faster progress, to ensure that our voice matters, to ensure that we can be able to create more extensive, comprehensive, and more volatile change in our world today that is beyond the political bureaucratic process, the tautology, and the exceptional, two-faced political process that it impact the challenges of ensuring our world. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Wantoe. Take a seat. I let you go on in there a little bit, but that was a very impassioned speech. I didn't want to cut it short. Okay. So now we come to the all-important judge's decision. Now, usually I would have done a vote before and a vote after, but the room has tripled in size since we started. So that's why I didn't do the vote at the beginning. So now we're going to do just the vote at the end. Tell us, based on the arguments that you heard, which side you think won. Now, we're not going to do a traditional hands up. We're going to do, because we're here to use our voice, we're going to, we've got some people ready. They're ready. You're ready. You're already ready to clap. We're going to use our voice. We're going to clap. We're going to scream, make as much noise as humanly possible. Oh, Stephen's telling me no, we can't do that, but we'll ignore him. Okay, so if you think that the proposition, so the side arguing in favor of institutional reform, if you think they won, that's Dana's side, can you cheer after 3? 1, 2, 3. Okay. If you think the opposition won, so arguing for grassroots change, can you give me a cheer after 3? 1, 2, oh, okay. Okay. There were a lot of people who weren't cheering or clapping or making any sounds. I think we're going to have to do that again. And my very scientific soundometer at the back is going to flash for me, which there's no real soundometer, it's Stephen, which side won. So we're going to do that again. On the count of 3, if you think institutional reform won this debate, I need you to make some noise. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And on the count of 3, wait for me to count this time. On the count of 3, if you think that grassroots change won the debate, can you make some noise? 1, 2, 3. So my very scientific, AI-driven, machine-powered, next-generation soundometer of the future is telling me that the side that won this debate were the opposition for grassroots change. Thank you very much. Can I invite you two to shake hands, please? Thank you. Okay, so before we finish this debate, we've got the all-important floor debate prize, which Alyssa has been judiciously planning. So I'm going to come to her in a minute to tell us which side she thinks won that. And then we still got a little bit of time before. Oh, hello, sorry. Scratch my face and the whole thing comes down. We still got a little bit of time. So I'm interested to actually ask the speakers, now your debating hat is off. Because remember, in debates, you don't necessarily get to actually argue for the side that you agree with. So I'm interested to come to them to tell us what they actually think. But before we do that, Alyssa, do you want to tell us who won the all-important Nando's chicken check for whatever the real equivalent of £20 is? I can't do the calculation in my head. Oh, we've got a microphone so everyone can hear.
This is not because he was sat next to me and gave me a bribe while no one was looking. But I would say that the winner of the floor debate is this lovely man sitting next to me because he gave 2 fantastic questions. You have a big round of applause. A great question on whether we can expect organizations to just wake up and change by themselves. Don't we need the precursor of grassroots to begin with? And then on the inverse, the decision still lies in the hand of institutions to make change in the first place. Yeah, congratulations.
Well done.
You'll have a great time at Nando's.
Nando's chicken check winging its way to you now. Okay, so what do you actually think? Do you actually believe the side that you were debating on?
One of the most skeptical because I have a policy background. So when I did a master in public policy at Oxford. So
that was master's number 1.
Yeah. So the thing is, I'm more skeptical about grassroots change. This was a debate. I think that we need more institutional reform to ensure that we have exceptional change, especially in the UN. So I'm one of the predominant advocates to have Africa have a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. I think the veto power have to change to create faster progress. But I also think that a lot of the things that we argue for has to be done through institutional change. So when I came to the debate, what I've learned so far is that we obviously will not have institutional change in the concept or the conceptual theory of our ideologies. So that's where, I like the way you said both topics work hands in hand. That's where grassroots change come about. Because young people have the tenacity to create faster change in issues that they care about. And our reliance on institutional change sometimes reduces that tenacity and also, gets up more frustrated. If you attend a climate event or anywhere around the world, you'll be so angry because you have the United States will just walk out when Russia is speaking, or you have Russia will walk out when the United States is speaking. You have China will say, okay, I disagree. So the political bureaucracy, for me, create, extreme challenges in having change in the context of our ideology. So in today's debate, I think we need more grassroots change, but we cannot ignore the fact that we need institutional reforms.
So given that's what he believes, I think he did a really good job of debating for one side. Thank you, Wantoe. And Dana, what do you actually, your debating hat's off, what do you actually believe?
So, funny story. Wantoe and I actually go way back. We're both activists and advocates for youth engagement, and it was a complete coincidence that we were both on the same panel. And when we were discussing this with Scarlett and her team, we were like, what are we going to do? We're activists. What do you mean? We need institutional change. I have no idea what to say. And so I was actually on the other side of things where I was starting off as an activist or an advocate, which is why your question was very interesting. You need to get into the system, specifically in our region, in the MENA, where systems are very stiff, and then work from the inside out to get that change, because anything that's as extreme as an advocate walking around in the Middle East, sometimes you get shut down. It is a very sensitive topic. So you have to learn the language, and then you also need the institutional support to slowly but gradually make change happen. And I think Saudi Arabia is a remarkable example of all institutional changes. You have been through such amazing progress. Congratulations to all of you. And it was such an honor for me to be here and discuss this topic with you. But I think beyond that, something that I did realize is there is power to your voice when it is institutionalized. And I'll repeat that. There is power to your voice when it is institutionalized, in the sense that Greta only got her moment when she was at the stage at the UN. And that was when she was really pushing for policies. And that was when she was really holding people accountable up front for the Paris Agreement, let's say. But then quickly, you fall for tokenization. Have you ever been invited to an event and you're like, why am I here? I have no idea why you invited me. And then you realize maybe you're just fulfilling a quota, or maybe you're just supposed to be there because they want
Not
something
here though,
else.
Dana. You
Not
belong here.
I
You
said
belong
hello.
here.
I said thank you for having me. But in general, and I think that's why I really wish we pay more attention to institutional change and stop fetishizing grassroots movements, because they are exhausting if they are not truly heard and adopted.
Amazing. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being here today and for being such active participants, audience members, judges in our debate. We'll be here. There's another session happening after this in about 10 minutes where we're going to be hearing from two serious experts on this topic. So I really implore you to sit here today and listen to them. But before we go, I just want you to think about, I mean, I really want to echo what Dana said. I am from the UK. I have the privilege of coming to Saudi Arabia quite frequently and have only did my first visit 2 years ago. And since then, I've been like 10 times. And I am overwhelmed by the rate of change. Talk about change happening quickly from the grassroots. I've never seen anything like it. Like, it's fast and it's exciting. And what gets me really excited as someone who works with young people, but also works with the BPs of this world, right? Like, I sort of cross both boundaries, is that whatever happens here, it's the power in young people. And I think that's what's so exciting and what I've seen over the conference the last 2 days. You guys are amazing, and it's incredible to see the voice that's been given to you through the institutions, but also the capacity you inherently have for making your voice heard. So I think it's amazing. I think you guys are all amazing. And if you want to hear anything more about any of the speakers, they'll be here afterwards. If you want to hear anything more about DebateMate, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And thank you very much. But please don't leave. You must stay, because there's a fantastic session happening after this. To me? Point of information. Oh, yeah, of course, please.
So both Dana and I from the Assembly. We have the ambassador. The ambassador is here. Oh, cheating. All right, so we have a sort. Okay, yeah, great. So if you want to learn more about the Youth Assembly, every year we have a large-scale event in New York focused on the Sustainable Development Goals, and every year we have an entire Saudi delegation that come. Reach out to her. She'll definitely provide you all the information. The next event is in August, and we also do have we are now like the organizer of the International Youth Day at the UN. So look at it, you have the assistant secretary here, which is nice. So we will be having the Youth Assembly in August, and we think it will be very incredible to take this conversation beyond what we have right now, to be in New York together to talk about the SDGs. So don't hesitate to reach out to her, and we'll be happy to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And if you want to stay for the session, please feel free to stay here, but make sure you get scanned, because otherwise Stephen's going to be told off. Okay. You guys, you were amazing. You were so good. How'd you find that? Ooh.